Go. Sweet.
So I'll start this podcast by saying not to watch this podcast today. You know
Absolutely.
why? There are 3 reasons why not to watch this podcast today.
And why is that? What
So
are those
one,
3 reasons?
This podcast is going to be very captivating.
Okay.
2, it might just be very motivating for you.
Okay. So that's the second reason,
and you
right?
might just learn how to be a good leader or a good presenter. So if you don't want to be want
those
all of
3,
that, then you
don't
should
watch the
probably not listen to this podcast or watch this podcast on YouTube.
Right. So so for those 3 reasons, if you don't want to develop all those, then not to watch this episode today.
सबैलाई हेर हेर भन्यो भने नहेर्ने तर नहेर भनेपछि then there might be people who will watch it, right?
It's like नगर भने गरौँ लाग्छ नि त. नसोचो भने सोचो लाग्छ नि त.
Exactly. So यही कन्सेप्टमा एउटा एकदमै इन्ट्रेस्टिङ भिडियो आएको थियो few years back.
Yep.
And that's where people discovered who?
Mannsi Agrawal. So Mannsi.
Welcome to Pop Talk, Mannsi.
Thank you so much. That was the nicest way anyone has introduced me in a long time. Please na hirnu hola your podcast. Please na hirnu hola.
Very interesting concept, right?
It was amazing. Like first when you started saying 7 reasons you shouldn't come to Nepal. Please don't come to Nepal. I was like, because we know each other from before.
Right.
And I was like, what's Mannsi saying?
And why is she doing this?
Why is she doing this?
Yeah.
Is she frustrated? I know Nepal's so frustrated because a lot of time that happens. So talking about that 7 reasons not come to Nepal, how did that idea come to you? How did it happen?
The idea, honestly, is not very, very original. The idea has been around for a while. I think probably 8 to 10 years ago, I had read an article, Don't Visit France. And I was like, okay, but I want to visit France. And I just came across this article, I read it, and it was exactly the same thing. So they said the food is really good, but it might make you put on weight.
That's where the inspiration. That's where the inspiration came from.
And it was there in my head,
right.
But I never thought I'll do anything about it. Cut to 2020, the pandemic is on. I have done enough of cooking, cleaning, cribbing. Now I want to do something better with my life. And I decided to start making videos. So I was making videos, but I had a very big lack of inspiration one particular week and I didn't know what to do. And then this friend of mine tells me, okay, let's meet at Patan. We were meeting around there. We had some work together. So I said, okay, I'll come to Patan. I wake up early in the morning. We were supposed to meet at 8 in the morning. I wake up at 4:30. I'm like, let's just write something about this idea that I had. And let me just say it to my friends. Let me write this, make a video, and I'll share it with my friends. Hopefully, they'll come to Nepal when this pandemic is over. 4:30 to 5:30, I do research. 5:30 to 6:30, I write. By 7:30, I've reached Patan, shot it, come back, met my friend at 8. So it literally happened in that one morning. Then I forget about it for the next 6-7 days. And then one day I just think, okay, let me edit this. Let's put some pictures. I got my teacher, photographer Om Yadav, to send me some photographs. Get some pictures, put it there. And before I actually put it on my Facebook, I was very skeptical. Because, the title was extremely edgy, controversial, potentially could get me in a lot of trouble. I put it. But before that, I showed it to Om Sir, the photographer, because his name was also attached with it. And I said, sir, shall I put this? Is this okay? He's like, yeah, I'll know. If something happens, pull it down. Worst comes worst, just pull it down. And then suddenly I put it up. And this is 6:30 on the 16th of October, 2020. I remember that. I'm not going to forget that.
Exact date.
And the time, 6:30 p.m.,
Exactly.
right? And at 8:30, there are some 85,000 views or something. And
Within
this is,
2 hours.
Yeah, and this has never happened to me in the past ever. And then I'm like, oh, but somebody's hacked in. There's a bug in my Facebook. Something's going wrong because this is not normal at all.
Exactly.
So I put off my computer. I logged out and I put it on again. And now the views have gone up again. And I have more views and more shares. And then I call up sir. He's like, Ramro bhaira cha. Sathiyarhai pathako, they like it. There was a lot of people who were also commenting and negative stuff. Ko yo keti ko, ai mai kahan bata aako khalko. But then there was a lot of good stuff as well. So then by the end of it, I was like, okay, this is doing really well. Spoke to my brother at 12 in the night. He's like, Didi, this is potential viral content. See what happens. By the next day, there were reporters outside my house, and suddenly I feel like this minor celebrity because everyone wants to know how this happened. It was hilarious. Honestly, when I think back, hilarious but extremely, utterly grateful that I got a chance to live that experience.
Before this video happened, right, you were already doing a lot of stuffs in terms of corporate training. And just now when you mentioned Om Yadav, I remember how I came to know about you. Now I remember, like, I think someone suggested me a photographer for kids photography or something like that.
Yeah.
Marriage photography.
No, kids.
Kids जसलाई, you specialize in kids जसलाई है त्यति बेला. And I think त्यति बेला तिम्रै छोरा हो क्या अरे, उसको लागि फोटो सुट गर्नु पर्यो भन्ने बेला चाहिँ न्यूबोर्नको लागि चाहिँ नि I think I was looking for a photographer, and that's when somebody suggested me, and I landed on your page. Then first you started as a photographer.
Yeah, no.
पो रहेछ.
I don't talk about this very much. And possibly this is the first time I'm going to be talking like to people and out there.
A lot of people don't know that you do photography as well. Right?
Yes. So it's a very long story. And I've always been a trainer. I've always been a communication coach. I've always loved this stage. I've always loved putting my words and my voice out there. I've always been a Toastmaster since as long as I can remember. Having said that, in 2016, 15, right after my son was born, I started taking his pictures and I got good at it. And then people started telling me, okay, mero chora ko liyo. I'm like, okay, come, get your chora. Let's do pictures. So I kept on doing pictures of friends and friends of friends. But then when it got to friends of friends of friends, then the question was, how much do you charge? And I'm like, ooh, do I charge for this? So photography started like that. And before I knew it, I was a specialized baby photographer. And at that point, I was the only one who was doing just this. There were photographers who were possibly taking pictures of kids, but nobody who knew how to pose a baby. And nobody who was actually specializing only in maternity and baby photos. And then I did this for 6 years professionally, did tons and tons and tons of shoots. And then I had to completely stop that because my training, my communication coaching, my branding work, working with the government, banks and all of that became just so immersive that I don't think I had the bandwidth for it. And so I completely left photography. But the only two things I'm doing now in terms of photography again is, one is after I did baby photography for 3 years, I also specialized in food styling and food photography. So I worked with a lot of restaurants to work on their menus and all of that. But there was a book called the Rana Cookbook, which released last year, which had 130 recipes from Rana households around the country. And I was the stylist and photographer for that. Now, the second edition of that book is coming out hopefully next year, which is the Nepal cookbook. So there's going to be recipes from all over Nepal. We've traveled a bit, done a lot of shoots, a lot of styling. I've done 16 days of shooting for it already. That is something I'm working on. And I'm really looking forward to it because, you get an idea to understand the culture of people through the food. And this is a very fabulous conversation to have. So I'm working on the styling and the photography of that. Another little thing, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but 3-4 months ago, I went, I got a call. A girl whose family I'd photographed, like her daughter and her husband and she passed away. Right? So I went for the condolence thing and I went to her house. And, I walk in and on the wall, all the pictures that I had taken in the shoot a year ago were there, printed, enlarged. And this boy comes and he actually tells me, Mannsi Di, yo matra chaba. And he's crying. And he's like, that's all we have. And that's when I really started second guessing myself and questioning myself. Was leaving photography such a good idea? Because at that point, it seemed like a lot of hassle and a lot of work. But then on that day, in that house, in that moment, when I looked back, this boy was so thankful to me. It seemed a lot more noble, a lot more sacred than what I had ever imagined it to be. So I said, okay, once in a while, if I get a shoot like that, I will take it up. I told myself that. 3 weeks ago, a friend called up. I had photographed her first son, who's 6 now. She called. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm calling you so late. My second son is 21 months old. I want a photo shoot done. I'm like, bro, I don't do this anymore. I don't have the time. I get a lot of inquiries. I don't do it anymore. But then she tells me, I'm sorry I called you so late. I don't think I want anybody else to do my photographs. The reason I called you so late is because last year I was diagnosed with cancer. And I'm like, I'm doing your shoot. Tell me when. So we did the shoot day
Of
before
course.
yesterday.
Oh, you did.
And I did the shoot. I am willing to take up those one-off kind of shoots, which really have a story where I feel I'll be contributing. And it's not just going to be about money or about good photos and the right poses. It is going to be about freezing that moment that's so precious. So yes, I do that, but not really.
So, but then again, earlier you are doing full-time on corporate trainings, you're busy with government officials and whatnot, right? But then this is something that you have been doing even before that video.
Of course.
But what changed after that video? You got more calls. And how did you? And because I have really seen her being, what do you call it? Blasted into a different dimension after that video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then a lot of people might not be able to use that fame in a positive way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They might just be overwhelmed with, a lot of attention, and they might just go to a different direction. But the way you've used that fame into a different level to capitalize on that is something that I feel like is very amazing. But how did you process that, and how did you channelize into something, in a different way that you are making profits out of it, and you're benefiting out of the media coverage that you're getting at this point of time?
Sure. So I'll answer that in 2 or 3 parts. It's very easy, as a Kudin, I think, to go viral. My brother's friend from college went viral because his dad slammed a birthday cake on his face or something like that. Okay, and that video went viral. Now, that was a meaningless video. Went viral like entertainment ko karan. Like reels my Instagram ma.
Now people know
entertaining him. People know him. Hey, your dad slammed the birthday cake. That's the kind of stuff. But did he get anything out of it? / did he manage to make it last? Was it long lasting? Did he manage to turn that into something else? Absolutely not. He became popular in college for a while. He got a bit of fame, but he didn't really manage to make anything out of it. Having said that, the day I realized this video went viral, suddenly overnight I had 10x the number of followers. Now there are these people on my page. There are these people that are following me. Let's give them something worth following, just to pani lage, okay? I was always a corporate trainer, and suddenly I knew I had a lot of eyeballs coming my way. I became extremely conscious about 3 things. Number 1, branding. I knew that the messages I wanted to give had to be consistent.
Right.
I had to show up. Number 2, I became extremely conscious about the fact that I had to add value. I would not be talking stuff just because, okay, now suddenly people know who I am, so let me get away with anything.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
So I knew I'm going to consistently work towards branding myself as a communication coach, as a corporate trainer. I will be providing value to people in the process, which means that a lot of the content that I talk about is freely available. I've got more than 83 videos on my YouTube. And when you watch any video, you will take away something or the other. And number 3, I became very conscious about the fact that now there is pressure. People are actually watching me.
Right.
I cannot mess this up. I have to put in more work. I have to make it worth their while. I have to be the hardest working person in the room. So for me, the things that really changed and how I managed to sort of keep that going was consistency of branding, putting in a lot of effort, and also making sure that people that came to my page, people that were following me, found some value in it. So, the crazy thing that people don't understand is, जुन दिन मेरो भिडियो भाइरल भयो त्यो दिन 1000 फलोवर्स थियो. नेक्स्ट मर्निङ 11,000 भयो. आई अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड. तर आजको दिनमा इट्स 1,30,000. 11 देखि 1,30,000 सम्म 2 वर्षमा मैले पनि त केही गरे होला नि. It is about consistently churning out content and not letting that virality get to your head. Because virality हुन सक्छ, but how to make the most of it is what you have to think about, just pani लाग्छ.
Exactly.
You also asked what changed.
Yeah.
In these days.
Yeah.
A lot of things changed. Number 1, the number of people that get in touch with me for coaching, for training. I love that. I'm very grateful. I cannot always make time for everyone and everything, but I feel extremely grateful, extremely honored when somebody gets in touch with me, whether it's an organization or an individual gets in touch with me and says, okay, I want coaching or I want a training session or whatever. Number 2, what also changed is that I have to be very conscious about the way I look when I get out of the house. Just to pani lagsa a lot of times. I sometimes just, you're in dirty clothes and you're looking dirty and shabby. You don't know how this works at all, by the way.
It does.
Oh,
I've been
no
there.
way.
I've
I
been
don't
there,
believe
Mannsi
that.
Agrawal. I've been
You've
there.
not been there.
तरकारी किन जाँदाखेरि पनि सुट लगाएर जान्छ रे.
I'm sure.
A video got viral recently.
I am sure. I can bet, होइन? त्यो उसको त थाहा छ मलाई, होइन? But I'm not like that at all. But now I have to be a lot more careful. And also, I think the one difference that's there, which is very hilarious really is, पहिला के हुन्थ्यो क्लास भएपछि एउटा फोटो हुन्थ्यो के लाइक क्लास सक्यो फोटो अब के हुन्छ क्लास स्टार्ट हुने अगाडि म्याम क्यान वी टेक अ सेल्फी एन्ड आइम लाइक ओ माई गॉड दिस इज एम्बैरेसिङ राइट बट द्याट काइन्ड अफ स्टफ बट यु नो मोर देन एनिथिङ अनेस्ट टु गॉड इट्स जस्ट अ पर्सेप्सन when I think about it from my point of view, what has changed in my life, what has changed in the way I think, just the fact that there's that much more pressure, there's that much more pressure to perform, there's that much more pressure to be better. So I stand up, suit up, show up every single day, and I put in more effort than I ever did. I think that's changed.
I like the second phrase.
What?
Stand up, suit up.
And show
I
up.
like that
You like the
phrase.
suit up.
like the suit
He
up
likes
part.
the suit up. He likes the suit up bit. He doesn't care about the standing up and the showing up, but suiting
No,
up.
that's there. That's always there. But
Yeah.
I like the second phrase.
Of course.
And I wanted to share this thing. Did you know that I approached Mannsi to coach me as well?
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
I did call her personally, and then I went to meet her. And I told her where is my difficulties, because I've been meeting a lot of clients, a lot of people, different kind of perspective people, right? And then I've been struggling to communicate well. That's what I told her. Now what happens is, when you go to a doctor, what happens? You have a pain and doctor asks, when did it start? How did it start? What did you eat? What happened?
So she asked you a lot of questions.
Now, she asked me all those questions, which made me realize that, that's where I'm supposed to work at.
Okay.
That's why she's asking me that question. And the more she's talking to me, the more I get nervous.
I know.
The more I get nervous. And one good thing about her voice is the more she talks, you are so captivated and you go with the flow that it's so mellow, It's like she's singing of something. That's how I feel. Like, even now. Sorry.
So you were also trying to improve on your presentations and sales pitch and stuff
and watching
like
her videos, a lot of videos, the way she talks and everything, that has really inspired and motivated me. So now we know.
Just to add on to that, I know a lot of people like us, especially. I'm schooling पनि त्यस्तै लेभलको हुन्छ नि त, especially when growing up, right? I was not privileged enough to go to I don't know, a very nice school maybe, right?
You went to a nice school.
तर हैन,
Banastali was considered one of the nicest school, brother.
Banastali was considered a nice school, but पढाइको कुरामा होला हैन, तर इन टर्म्स अफ हाउ द के अरे लेसन्सहरू पढाउने अथवा सब्जेक्ट्सहरू पढाउने एकदम ट्रेडिसनल मेथड भनौँ न. यु गो यु डु यर होमवर्क्स, यर क्लास. अहिलेको टाइममा त अहिले पढाउने तरिका पनि फरक भइसकेको छ, स्कुलिङ एकदम फरक भइसकेको छ, प्रेजेन्टेसन दिनुपर्ने. आई थिङ्क द्याट जस्ट सेप्स अप अहिलेको जेनेरेसनको बच्चाहरूलाई चाहिँ नि अलिकति डिफ्रेन्ट वेमा सेप गर्छ. द वे वी वर सेप्ड अप वाइल वी वर स्टडिङ इट वाज, हामी स्कुलमा इङ्ग्लिस मिडियममै पढेको हो, तर हामी नेपालीसँग जोडेर इङ्ग्लिस गर्थ्यौँ कि गरिङ भरिङ भन्ने खालको वर्ड युज गरेर हामी ठुलो भएको हो कि.
You do know.
What?
Like the English that we used to speak was, you do know.
What's
Why do
that?
You do know.
You do know.
Hey, you do know.
Why are you telling me to do it?
I understood.
That's the main reason why I feel like if my schooling had been different, if my college life would have been different, maybe the way I speak might have been a little different.
Right, absolutely.
Right. But then, Mannsi, did you used to speak the same way you used to do now? Like when you were in school?
I mean, let's go back to your schooling as well.
I have struggled like a lot when it comes to speaking with anybody.
That's mutual here. That's both ways.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that's the same reason why you met her as well.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that's the main reason why I would love to have a personal one-on-one coaching as well with you.
No, as I said, like when she talks, you would want to talk like her.
Exactly.
You know?
But then was it the same with you when you were growing up? Like,
Okay,
I know that you're from Calcutta.
Right.
Right. Can we go a little deeper into how things shaped up for you?
Sure.
Right.
So I am from Calcutta. Calcutta, as you know, was the seat of the British Empire until 1911. I have had a lot of struggles in my life, but I think the one thing I have been extremely privileged in, the one area that I've been extremely privileged in, was my education. My parents, my father, my mother, more specifically, I would say, left no stone unturned when it came to ensuring that all three of her kids went to the best possible school that she could afford. Not just monetarily, but also, with your mindset to be able to send your child to a school like that. I'm from La Martiniere for Girls, Calcutta. And it is a school which is not really a convent, but it is affiliated with the churches. It is a Protestant school, okay? What school gave me was a lot of heritage. It gave me an idea of what the British culture was like. It helped us communicate better. It was a traditional school, I would say, when I think about it. Yet we had so many extracurricular activities, so many opportunities to express ourselves, to go out there, to share what we wanted to share. That school gave me a huge, let's say, a huge boost when it came to communicating better. Having said that, my dad is perhaps one of the most well-read people I know, somebody I look up to as my guru in communication. So I was learning simultaneously at school as well as at home. So yes, I would say for me, communication came at an earlier age, which means that we were always very conscious about how we spoke. I think I spoke better when I was in school than I do now. My English, the vocabulary that naturally rolled out of my tongue was a lot more solid. I feel that school imposed a lot of Eurocentric education on us, which means that because I grew up in Calcutta, I was from an ISC school. ISC is affiliated with the British education system in a way. It was very Eurocentric. We were taught world history and Shakespeare, and we were taught about the history of France, the geography of the world. It wasn't very based in Indian systems, right? That gave me sort of a disconnect with a lot of things, but then I read up on all of that, all the local stuff, all the cultural bits, all the Indian bits of things, but it also allowed me to have a different worldview. So school and my education, yes, 100% made a huge difference in the way I communicated. School, we were not allowed to speak in Hindi. You know, if you spoke in Hindi and a teacher heard you, you'd be in trouble. If you sang a
Did you have to pay a fine?
We did not have to pay money, but we were like given that look and okay, don't speak like that. So much बोलना ही नपाउने
हामी कहाँ नि बोल्न पाउँदैन थियो. That's why we used to use the words like गरिङ.
Oh my god.
No, yeah, हाम्रो स्कुलमा पनि हिन्दी बोल्न पाइँदैन थियो.
नेपाली त पाइन्थ्यो होला नि त.
नेपाली पनि
हाम्रो
पाइँदैन
हिन्दी, नेपाली, no language apart from English. So much so that by the age of say 7 or 8, English became my default language. I thought in English. So when I was speaking in Hindi class, अंग्रेजी शब्द निस्किहाल्ने के. So त्यो उल्टा हुन्थ्यो नि हाम्रो लागि. So for me, English is my default language, whether I like it or not, which gives me maybe a bit of an edge, but it doesn't necessarily make you the best communicator. So yes, when it comes to the grammar rules of English, I might have it easier than a few people, but when it comes to communicating, not necessarily. Communicating, speaking on stage, putting your words across properly, having the right sales pitch isn't so much to do with language. It is more to do with understanding the technicalities of how that's done. So for example, I know a lot of people who speak fabulous English with a British accent, right? Great words. Can they sell a glass of water to me? Maybe not. They don't know how to make a sales pitch.
Please don't look at me when you say that.
I will not look at you at all if you want that.
You become nervous.
No, but that's exactly what I'm saying, right? You might have a fabulous flow of the language, but when you communicate in the business world, when you're trying to communicate to put your point across, when you're communicating to sell something, when you're communicating something about a brand, it's not so much about the flow of language. It's not so much about the words you use. It is about the technicalities, about how you understand the other person, how you ask the right questions, how you make the right points, how you sell yourself, your brand, and your thoughts across. That's more important.
Do you think like accent matters when you speak, when you're speaking with somebody?
That's a great question, actually.
Because see, मलाई कस्तो हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि I am from a Newar family.
Correct.
हैन? And even when I'm speaking Nepali, I sound like a Newar. And even if I'm speaking in English, I sound like a Newar.
You don't actually. I would never guess.
हो र?
साँच्चै.
I feel
When
like
you speak Nepali होला, तर इङ्ग्लिसमा त त्यति लागेन मलाई, साँच्चै.
ए हो र? Okay, that's a compliment I'll take. So I feel like I've worked hard on speaking well. I don't know if I'm speaking well, but I did not speak like this before. Like you said, you have had somehow acquired an acumen of thinking in English, right?
Yeah.
But then it came really hard for me. I had to practice it a lot for me to be at least speaking in, because I used to translate Nepali and a Newari into Nepali into English in my head, and then used to speak it. It used to take a lot out of me, and then I couldn't speak before. Does it really matter? Because he has a different type of accent, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
I have a weird kind of accent. Like my accent changes according to the person I'm talking to. If I'm talking to a person who has a British accent, my accent turns British. Then if I'm talking to an American accented person, then my accent turns American. than if I'm talking to a Chinese person, then my accent goes.
You know, what are the weirdest thing that happened?
Yeah.
Once we were in US embassy event ma thiyam ke haina, and
Right.
he is very good at breaking the ice. I'm very introverted. He's very extroverted. He just goes on and says like, "Hi, how are you?" And the person says like, "Where do you catch that accent from?"
I get that a lot.
Very
I get that a
unique
lot.
I'm sure you get that actually. I'm sure you get that a lot.
I get
Right?
that a lot.
I had this girl in my class. I remember this is many years ago. I was teaching proper American accent. Right?
Uh-huh.
And so, like, after a couple of days, I'm like, so where are you from? As in, you know, did you grow up in America? Did you come back to Nepal? What's the story? She's like, Butwal. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Butwal and that accent, right? So,
So does it really matter? Ke त्यस्तो accent? अब
Yeah.
English, American accent, British accent, you know, like एकदम राम्रो गनिन्छ नि त. फेरि इन्डियन भयो भने फेरि नराम्रो भनेर भनिन्छ कि के भनिन्छ. But then नेपाली भयो भने त अझ पनि फेरि अर्को टाइपको छ. Does it really matter when it comes to a corporate world or for especially for a new young generation को लागि हैन?
Hazur.
अब everybody is not privileged to go to a very nice school,
Sure.
but then they certainly would like to try and have that kind of accent or diction or whatever to
Right.
be a good presenter.
Right.
Right?
So here's what I'm going to say. For me personally, when I'm speaking to somebody, right, I am mindful enough to cut across those layers of accent and diction, right? When I want to speak to somebody and I'm genuinely enjoying this conversation, you could be speaking to me in the most Newari accent. You could be speaking to me with a Marwadi accent. It doesn't matter. But if you are able to hold my attention, if you can make me feel interested in that conversation, you could be talking to me about stock prices. You could be talking to me about parasailing. You could be talking about anything. But if you can grab my attention, that is good enough for me. Having said that, yes, I understand in certain places it does matter. And how I have been told that it matters is because I have been discriminated against because of my accent. Because my skin was not white enough. My accent was not British enough. In this city, I didn't get a particular project.
You're not going to mention the city, are you?
This city.
This is like Kathmandu.
She just said it, man.
This city, a particular college got in touch with me. We're looking for somebody to give training on public speaking. And I'm like, sure, I'll just send you all the details from my side, this many sessions, everything. Ma'am, can we have a native speaker? I said, what do you mean by a native speaker? Ma'am, somebody with a British accent. I said, sure. I get in touch with my friend and I say, you know, you have a British accent, go do this class. He's like, but Mannsi, I don't know anything about public speaking. And I think you speak better English than I do because that's your default language. And when it comes to grammar and sentence structure, you're better than I am. I said, you have the right accent. More importantly, you have the right color of skin. Go take that class. He got that class.
He got the class.
He got the class. It's as simple as that.
Without the experience.
Without the
Public
experience, no idea.
Just accent.
This has happened with me. So I understand that I have been discriminated against, even in my field, right? So I understand it does happen. I understand it can be a problem potentially. But for me personally, when I look at somebody, I have been attuned to now break down those barriers. And I do not go by the accent. I go by the content, the intent, and more importantly, how well people can engage me when they're having a conversation. I think that's more important, personally. तर एउटा अर्को कुरा, मेरो छोरा अब, मेरो त अमेरिकन एक्सेन्ट पनि छैन उहाँ जस्तो, ब्रिटिश पनि छैन उहाँ जस्तो, फ्रेन्च पनि छैन उहाँ जस्तो, होइन? तर मेरो छोरा होइन, अब ऊ त मसँगै हुर्क्या छ, होइन? He speaks sometimes with an American accent, and that's YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't understand where these kids get this from. He's telling me, Mom, what's the route? I'm like, Thappad marungi, what's the route? Speak properly. you know what I mean? Like, you know, they speak like that, and I'm like, but I also understand that he's spending just so much time consuming that kind of content. You don't blame
How old
the
is your son?
8.
8 years old.
8 years old. But
My
he
son's
speaks.
5.
Does he already have some sort of a foreign accent?
So when we first kept
He
him
has
at
a
school,
father accent.
Oh, he's got a Raaz accent, which is everywhere. It's universal.
Actually, so when he was growing up, when he was 3 years, he started building this, started singing Russian songs.
Wow.
The
Because
YouTube
you're watching a lot of
songs.
YouTube
Yeah,
videos.
because back then he used to look. There's a Vlad and Nikki kind of thing.
Vlad and Nikki, the
Vlad
two
and Nikki.
kids with
Yeah,
a
two
mom,
kids
right?
and a mom.
I know
yeah.
this.
So there's an English version and there's a Russian version. They are from Russia, basically.
apparently.
He Russian मैले हेरेको छैन.
So his was the Russian version. Now he's singing this song. I was like, what language is he speaking? Then
You didn't know that? You don't know that accent? I'm
I
surprised.
didn't know. I haven't came across a lot of Russian people,
Right.
so of course. Then again, later he started developing this American accent
Right.
because he started going to YouTube in the American accent channels, whatever there is. Now, we really wanted him to learn Newari, you know, because as Newar, we think we should know how to speak Newari at least. So we wanted him to speak Newari. Don't count my hours and arms, please.
No.
By the way, you had 35 arms.
And 62 hours. And now you're thrown out of this podcast.
Let's make it 63 now. Okay. So we
Lala,
wanted him to learn Newari, right?
Right.
Then we kept him to Newari school now. And just so he could learn or talk in Newari. Now he has Newari accent.
Okay, so ठिक छ.
So he speaks English.
No, yeah.
होइन sometimes एकदम American accent निकालिदिन्छ कहिलेकाहीँ British accent निकालिदिन्छ अनि most of the time when he speaks त्यो बोल्दाखेरि नेपालीमा especially त्यो ट म होइन ट ट म ट and all those stuff as a ठेट नेवार would say त्यस्तो accent निकालिदिन्छ and कहिलेकाहीँ चाहिँ because my wife likes my son calling her Ama, okay? Not mommy or mom. Ama bhanन्छ, and my son calls me Dada. Sometimes he says, Dad? I was like, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
And he calls my wife, Mom, what you doing? And I just, where did you get that? You're just 5.
I think it's just a phase, bro.
Right?
It's a phase.
It's a phase. He's just 5.
But then, Mannsi, like,
Exactly.
you being somebody who trains people how to do it, how do you train your kid to, speak better? And
Yes,
stuff
I was
like
coming to that question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How do I train my kid to speak better?
Yeah, exactly. Because he's in the most, he's the most privileged out of everybody.
Privileged Bhanda, look at the spotlight.
Okay.
Look at it. Nobody would care about how other kids speak. Tera mero chora, if he does something wrong, no.
Teta.
But it's not, no. Honestly, I think he's decent. His vocabulary is fabulous. At the age of 4, suddenly he's telling my mom, I think we should just camouflage that. And mom's like, wow. To use words like that, to be able to understand what they mean, to be able to express himself well is good. He has a huge problem in that he can't speak Hindi. He understands, I think, but he doesn't speak Hindi. Unfortunately, because we don't have that much Hindi at home. We speak mostly in English. And now, just so he understands Nepali, we try to speak in Nepali at home. So, because he has to do it for school, for assignments and all of that, right? So, my son doesn't understand Hindi very well. Having said that, I think one of the privileges I had was that my parents read a lot to me. They spoke, we communicated a lot. And that is what I'm trying to do with my child. I introduced him to his first novel just last week. We started with Famous 5. We're reading books. He discusses, he shares ideas with me. He's got his own way of looking at the world. And this is a novel that was written 120 years ago, maybe. So they're very conflicting, but it's very nice to hear what he says. I think one of the best things we can do for the next generation is allow them to speak, allow them to share, and ask tons and tons of questions. So as a mom, I'm always asking him, do you think you like yellow flowers or orange flowers? And then he'll say orange. And I'm going to be like, okay, why? So just the whys, just start conversations and allow them to speak. When he makes a grammatical error, I always do point it out to him. There are quite a few that he makes sometimes. And I always point it out to him, never in front of people, but when we're not together, I'm going to be like, oh, when we're not around people, I'm like, oh, you know what? You should say, I said you is wrong. I told you. So things like that. So I do try to iron out those creases, but it's going to take time and I'm okay with that. I think what's more important is for me to allow him to speak, for him to feel that my mom is a safe space and I can go and share anything at all with her without a filter, without a wall. So for me, I try to give him that right now because that's what he needs. So my son shares a lot with me. Yes, there are things he's tried to hide and I've come to know and I then asked him about it. And then he's going to go and he's going to tell me everything. But I think starting conversations, I think just allowing them to express themselves at this age is the most important. And that's the fundamental. And also to get into a habit of speaking, I see a lot of families, I know a lot of families where people don't actually sit together around a table and speak. But I grew up having extended dinners. My dad, he'd come back and we'd all wait, we'd all have dinner together. And then the plates are gone, everything's done, but we're still at the table for the next 3 hours, just talking to one another. I think that really sets you off in the right way to communicating better because you feel safer to communicate. And I had a great role model to look up to as well. I think that would be the answer.
So now I also had that tradition before when I was a kid, like we couldn't eat before our dad came home, right? Me and my sister, we had to wait for my dad and my dad comes home, then he freshen up, then we go to kitchen, then together with him we sit on a dining table, then we start eating. But then that created something that, because my dad was very strict while I was growing up. Now he used to ask me how was school. I couldn't say I did bad. So then
That was on a usual basis.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why.
Exactly. But then again, also you would know in I don't know whether it's worldwide or whether it's still in India. While eating, you shouldn't speak is what we're told. Have you heard about this? Have you heard
I've
about
heard this. My
Okay.
grandmother says it, but no one
Okay.
listens to
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
in our house.
So I was coming to the point, like, to your son again. Your son is 8 now, right? How was it, bringing him up? Like, was it hard because you're also working and your professional life is so hectic at the moment?
On a daily basis, I struggle with mom guilt for at least half my day. Okay? This is the truth. And there's no way of sugarcoating this, but it's the truth. My son is 8. It was an extremely difficult journey to bring him up. We have a unit family, so it's just my husband, my son, and myself. Before my son was born, my career hadn't taken off in the way it has taken off now. So I had a lot more time. And suddenly, immediately after my son's birth, my photography went up crazy. My training sessions increased exponentially. So for me, it was about, I worked for this all these years. Nothing was happening in my favor. And suddenly now I have this baby who's dependent on me to be alive. And I also have these amazing opportunities that I'm getting. How do I balance it?
Exactly.
So this became a very big problem. Add to it the fact that we've never had anybody else from the family who's taken care of him, really. It's just the two of us that stay together. My mom comes in, volunteers 1 month a year. She's told me 1 month a year, if you want to travel, work, do whatever, I will come and I will take care of your child. But that's the only privilege I have. My son was extremely unwell for a few months in the middle when he was around 1.5 years too. So he used to get these frequent colds and coughs, the general stuff. So I have been struggling just so much with this. But more than the external struggles, like, acha doctor ka janu parcha, yo garnu parcha, tyo garnu parcha. More than that, I think it's a mental struggle. It's a daily mental struggle. I deal with it even today. For the last 4 months, again, my son's been very sick, and we just came to know 2-3 days ago what it is. The struggle is, yes, I have to give him medicines, but oh my God, will I be able to wake up tomorrow and focus on my work? So I think this entire process of slowly getting used to being a mom and working has in a way helped me understand how to compartmentalize a lot better in my brain. How to shift gear. I'm in mom mode when I'm at home. I have been thrown up on, pooped on, all of that happens when you have a little kid. Even today, I go home sometimes and my son is looking sickly and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? 8 in the night, rush him to the hospital, see what happens, things like that. But I also know that when I'm working, I have to give it my 100% because there are eyeballs on me at every given point of time. So yes, I have that guilt. Yes, I have spoken about this guilt to a lot of my friends who are working as well. It's no easy way to deal with it. There's absolutely no formula. It is about the mindset. It is about knowing that you can never have a 50-50 balance. There are days when I'm 75% mom and 25% working woman. There are days when I'm 95% working woman and 5% mom. My son has learned to deal with it, but I know that even if he's a very small part of my day time-wise, mental faculty-wise, he's going to be 100% when I'm around him. So I think that is the one thing that you consciously decide to do.
Something
if
that
you're
you
gonna
would
put this-
suggest to working moms.
When you're with your child, you be there 100%. When you're not with your child, you're not with your child. And you cannot be continuously thinking about ghar ma ke bhai ratsa. You have to trust the universe. You have to trust your baby that much. And there's nothing you can do.
Exactly.
But honestly, I grapple with mom guilt on a daily basis. And there's no easy way around it. Having said that, I also realize, ultimately, whatever I'm doing is usko lagi pani ramro huncha ek tarikale, right? I'm working. He has a better role model, or not a better, but a role model to look up to at home. I'm a super hustler. There are days, and there have been months actually, I woke up at 4:30 before anyone else at home woke up. 4:30 to 7 used to be my working hours, right? 2.5 hours, get my work done for the day. 7 to 7, I'm going to be mom, wife, sister, daughter-in-law, whatever
It's
I
pretty
need to
scheduled.
be. It was pretty scheduled around that way, right? Or there have been days when I would sleep later than everybody else, work on my photography, work on the editing. So I have managed to steal time here and there. And no matter
But
what processes you
But
put
being
in,
pretty focused on things, right?
very focused.
Very focused, yeah.
But then the other thing is, I've got only 2 priorities in life. Either it's work or it's my family or my child. I don't really have a social life. And while it might look glossy on Instagram sometimes,
Once in a while.
the truth is, yeah, I do go out once in a while, but I don't really like amble around and party that much or go for kiddie parties. I don't have that privilege in life. And I'm okay because that's a choice I've made. And I'm extremely confident that the priorities that I've chosen are working for me right now. So why not? So it's just 2 things. It's my work and my child.
During those struggle times, right? बच्चा पनि छ, family पनि छ, घरमा अरू कोही छैन हेर्ने, you're working. Working भनेर पनि, it's not a 9 to 5 job that you were doing, right? You had to find the work,
Absolutely.
right? It's not that one day you think of becoming a photographer and everyone starts to sort of call you and say, I need photography. It's not that you say that I'm a trainer and everybody calls you for training, right? You have to go pitch, idea, cost, negotiation, everything by yourself, I am guessing, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's another level of struggle that you probably have you went through, right? So just wanted to know, like, those tough times, how you dealt with it. What anything that reminds you of maybe a story that you want to share.
A story छैन 10 वर्षको स्ट्रगल छ के भन्ने हैन
एउटा story होला
एउटा स्टोरी it's a book, it's a novel, it's not a story हैन मैले अब I can't even count
because यस्तो हुन्छ I think everybody is made out of the failed stories before they succeed, right? So you must have had those like very disappointing moments, like one एकचोटि एकदमै disappoint भएको एउटा memorable एउटा के अरे कुनै इन्सिडेन्ट छ that really like pushed you.
एकदमै राम्रो कुरा तर त्यही भनिरा मेरो लागि disappointment was never memorable because it was every day. You know what I mean?
Okay,
every day new disappointment, new bottom, let's touch rock bottom. अच्छा rock bottom मुनि पनि के छ ल, let's go touch that today. त्यस्तो पनि हुन्थ्यो के. So much of struggle, so much of work. People do not understand, right? We started with talking about 7 reasons to never ever visit Nepal. One video, suddenly people know who Mannsi Agrawal is.
Exactly.
Bro, my best friend sends me a message. Congratulations for becoming an overnight success after 14 years of backbreaking labor. Right? People don't understand that. One incident I'll tell you. American Embassy ko euta sano kune project थियो. It was a 3-day project. I had to train, I think, 160 students from all over Nepal. And I had to help them communicate better for interviews. I think that was the project. This is 2016, if I'm not wrong. I'm supposed to go, be in Dhulikhel for 3 nights. I've set it up. My husband's going to be home, take care of my son, because we didn't even have a helper at that point. We didn't have a reliable helper. So we were like, no, we'll do this by ourselves. We'll be very hands-on parents. We cannot. So I'm going to go stay in Dhulikhel 3 days ko lagi. Sappai set up. So, there's pressure because you like 160 students. You have to make them do this. It's 7 hours of training a day. The night before I'm supposed to leave, 2:30, wake up, my son has 103 fever. My training starts at 7:38 in the morning. So I'm like, okay, take him to the hospital. We're in the hospital till 5:36. My husband is still there. I go from there. I get the organizers pick me up, go from the hospital to Dhulikhel. I was supposed to stay over for 3 days, but I come back every day. I'm at home, at the hospital, thrown up on, pooped on, holding a sick child because my husband's tired doing this through the day, and I'm doing it through the night. 3 days, no sleep, no real food, no real sense of time, no sense of orientation. के भइराछ कुन दिन हो के गर्ने. Literally going into class, doing my coaching, doing my training, doing whatever I had to, coming back home to that cycle over and over again. My son had like a pre-pneumonia-like condition and we were extremely scared at that point. तर यस्तो त कति छ but this is just one random thing I remember.
But that's
I've
more
done
like
this.
you being a mom, innit?
Yeah, that's just normal. Okay, struggle यस्तो पनि हुन्थ्यो. We again, it looks like I have a great big team working for me, right? Like a lot of people helping me, assisting me. No.
I still think that.
Come to my office. It is a Viran deserted place. We're three now. We're three people. The max people I've had with me have been three. So we were a team of 4 initially. Now we're 3 people. One person's just doing editing and shooting for me, cinematography, and editing and photographs for that. One person, she's just scheduling and things on Instagram and things on the internet and social media and admin. But honestly, most of the communication, most of the work is being handled by me. And I understand.
What about designs and all? Everything is done by the team itself?
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
But I'm there. I'm watching like a hawk.
You're a very micromanaging person.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. I'm very bad at delegating.
No, because you've already done photography and editing yourself, so now you know exactly what you want and how you want to be perceived. So I think that also helps.
Absolutely. You know, it's a very cool thing that you just thought about, and I want to elaborate a bit on this because I talk about it a lot. You know, the future, there are 2 thoughts now. The future is going to be based on the gig economy. Do we know what the gig economy is?
Please elaborate.
Please elaborate.
Enlighten us.
I love how both of you like, please elaborate. Okay. So you know how earlier people would have a job when they graduated out of college. I'm talking about the 1960s and 70s. And they would have that job till the day they died, kind of a thing, right? Like in Honda, Japan was famous for this. I'm a Honda man. People would literally say that because they felt so married to this organization. Slowly that disintegrated, and now you have people who are willing to switch jobs, who are willing to try different things, hustle around a bit more. It was predicted that around 2040 or 2050 is when the world would enter something called a gig economy. A gig economy is one where an organization, let's say a bank or a production house or whatever, doesn't actually have a big full-time team, right? You hire people on a need basis and you hire them for a short term to do gigs. So rather than having salaried employees, you have people who come in, do a particular project, do a particular small thing and go away, correct? Now the gig economy is beneficial for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Number one, the organization itself. You're not doing salaries. You know, when people are not working, they're not around.
There are no fixed costs.
No fixed costs. You don't need a huge space. You could run an entire organization in a much smaller space. So rental expenditure goes down, right? So the gig economy is what is going to come in later, right? The gig economy is going to happen in 2040, 2050. It was predicted. Ke bhayo, COVID ayo, 2020. Suddenly, everybody wants to cut down on costs and everybody is more used to working online, which means that in a lot of ways, the gig economy has actually come in earlier. A lot of people like myself are freelancers. A lot of people that were earlier working in organizations today have also decided to become freelancers, right? Which means that today to succeed, yes, you need to be, let's say, a good photographer, a good editor, a good whatever, but you need basic communication skills. You need basic negotiation skills because what's going to happen is in the next 10 years, you'll have more and more and more freelancers and fewer people who are doing one particular job for their entire lives, which means that the entire process of negotiating, communicating, convincing, getting the gigs is going to be like a round-the-clock process.
It's not going to be a one-time thing. And you get the job and you're there for the rest of your life, right?
You're there for 3 weeks. You're there for 4 weeks. You're there for 7 days.
And suddenly you are a freelancer. You need another job and you need to do this all over again, right?
So the whole process of communication, the whole process is going to repeat itself over and over again. How I want to tie that up with what you said about me being a photographer and being very conscious about how I want to be perceived is this. Second thing, and then I'll bridge them together. You know, earlier, it would be great if you were a specialist in one thing. Let's say I am a corporate trainer. So that's my specialization, you know, where you're a corporate trainer, you're specializing, going deep into that particular topic, right? Works. Today, if you want to be genuinely and truly successful, there has to be something more that you do. You can't just be an expert in one thing. Why? Gig economy pani cha. Every time client lai attract pani garnu parne cha. Every time kehi naya pani garnu parne cha. You have nothing fixed in your life, right? If I don't work today, tomorrow I may not have food to eat. You know? So, yes, you have to go deep into one particular topic. However, if you have knowledge of other things, so you're a specialist in one thing, but you're a generalist in many other things. And this becomes a T graph. And the juncture where the generalist topics and the specialist topics meet, that becomes your specialization. So let me just put it in perspective, मेरो आफ्नो तर्फबाट, because you pointed this out. Communication to थियो, photography, cinematography को अलिअलि idea थियो. जहाँ meet भयो, मैले videos बनाउन थाले. And that gives you the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So in your case, let's say, you understand a lot about fashion, clothes, suits. You understand a lot about the way men should groom themselves, grooming, right? That's one. And then communication and this podcast. What happens is where they meet, you guys could be the biggest fashion and grooming podcasters in the world. That is really your specific niche. That is your strength. That is your specialization that nobody else has. Steve Jobs, I always give this example, understood the whole IT business of it, understood the whole, how to make a phone or how to make a computer or whatever. But he'd also studied calligraphy in college, which gave him an eye for aesthetic designs and fonts, which made sure that Apple products are nicer looking than other products. So, specialization is IT and hardware and all of that. Understanding of calligraphy was just one of his generalizations, not his strongest trait, but still the T met there, and this was his niche. So this, I think, is super important. And that's
so understanding that is
understanding that, knowing how to communicate over and over again, finding where your team meets, that is the value, that is the difference that you add to the world.
So Mannsi, like roughly how many people have you trained Olaile-samma?
I have no idea.
Maybe you have trained a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of students, and the employees who wants to work in an organization, students, ... What do you think are common problems of all of them? Okay?
I'm not going to say entrepreneurs. I'm going to say people that have achieved a lot. Okay, could be an entrepreneur, could be a banker, could be a singer.
At any level.
Any level, any age. But somebody who's achieved a lot versus somebody who's starting out or somebody who's sort of stagnated a bit. The biggest difference I find is the ones who've achieved the most are most receptive to learning. I cannot stress this enough. I'm not going to take names. I get a call from somebody one evening, 4:30. Mannsi, tomorrow I'm giving this huge TEDx talk. Super high achiever, okay? Much older than us. Amazing. I look up to him, okay? He's God. Super cool. I'm giving a TEDx talk. I am clueless. I need help. Literally says this to me on the phone. I'm like, I'm slightly busy. Mannsi, 1 घण्टा टाइम त चाहियो जसरी नै मिलाउनु म तपाईको घर बाहिर आएर कुरिहाल्छु. I'm like, okay. We met 1 घण्टाको सट्टा because I loved what he was doing, what he was talking about. We spent 3 hours together. He asked me a million questions. Next day, wish me best of luck. I'm like, I'm with you in spirit, Just anything to make him do well. And he did a great job, right? On the other hand, the young students who've just come out of grade 10, एउटा presentation गर्या होला स्कुलमा आफूलाई हिरो ठान्ने, हैन? They are the ones who don't want to listen. So I always say this, they are the ones that are least receptive. The ones who've worked a lot, the ones who've put themselves in situations which have allowed them to grow, the ones that are achievers actually know how little they know. Every time I walk into the room and I'm in a room of people that are way smarter than me, I'm like, oh my God, Mannsi, you need to up your game. You need to learn from these people. So the ones that are the highest achievers are always more willing to be coached, always more willing to learn. Chairman of banks, brilliant. They will say, I have to make this speech in front of this government person, that ambassador, this person, this country ma gaera. How do I start? They want to learn, they want to grow because they continuously put themselves in places and in rooms and in conference halls where they're not the smartest person. And look at the will they have to learn because they want to grow. On the other hand, the kids, the youngsters, the ones that have done 3 presentations in college, which might have been good, they're always like, we know this stuff. What is she going to tell us? Which is great.
I'll watch it on YouTube instead.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for me, when I get a call from somebody who wants to learn because they want to go ahead and make a difference, they want to change their lives, they want to impact people around them, they want to feel confident on stage, they know they have a great story, a great message and great content, yet they don't really know how to put it across. Those are the clients I love the most. Those are the ones that are most receptive. Those are the ones that transform the most in comparison to kids that have been put into a class because this is what they have to do.
You don't like training kids?
I've stopped.
You were
99%. I get calls from colleges and I'm always extremely skeptical because for me it's a much better use of my time to work with somebody that's just way more receptive to it. So I am extremely conscious about the way I use my time.
Because students are like this, they are kind of forced into getting the training, right? And then they sort of, भुलेर जान्छ होला अब इट्स जस्ट लाइक कम्पल्सरी जस्तो गर्दै भने झन् गाह्रो हुन्छ
एक्ज्याक्टली अब क्लासमा राखेर यो तिम्रो कम्युनिकेसन क्लास छ कतिको इन्ट्रेस्ट हुन्छ होइन बट इफ सम स्टुडेन्ट कम्स टु मी इज लाइक आई रियली वान्ट टु डु दिस आई अर्गनाइज अ ग्रुप अफ फ्रेन्ड्स आई एम विलिङ टु वर्क विथ देम
आई थिङ्क द यङ जेनेरेसन शुड रियलाइज द इम्पोर्टेन्स अफ ह्याभिङ गुड प्रेजेन्स इन फ्रन्ट अफ पिपल good presence in front of in a meeting or interview that really affects even though you might have very less technical knowledge which can be built up but communication is something that it's really important right but then how does this one-on-one coaching sort of work? I'm very intrigued by the idea because I didn't know that you did one-on-one coaching. I just knew that you did corporate corporate sort of
There's
training.
Something else I figured out of you as well.
I'm sure
after the research I'm going to ask that next question.
I'm going to ask intrigued. We are going to ask a lot of questions now about one-on-one coaching because one of the main reasons why we did Pop Talk was also because we felt like we are doing our regular work that we already do, right? I have ads as my agency. He does RatnaRaaz as full time, right? We are doing too much already as it is. But then the main reason why we did Pop Talk was sort of to meet great people like you, first of all, and learn.
I like that. You could have given me a call. We could have done coffee anyway.
But then, like this platform and this structure of communication would not have been the same. And one of the main reasons why we did was to learn and to grow from that experience and to learn from the experience that we get from the guests that we bring in. I just want to know, like anybody who's watching as well, maybe if they want one-on-one coaching, like how does the process start? You just give a call and then do it, or are you very selective of it? Because like you said, you have only 3 people working for you. So I'm pretty sure
3 people including me working for me.
Exactly. So I'm sure you have very limited time and bandwidth that you work with. And what would be the criteria and how would be the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know how to say this without sounding horrible about it, but here's the answer. One-on-one coaching is something that I hold very close to my heart because this gives me an opportunity to directly witness the transformation in front of me because this is week after week after week of working with somebody. So I know that this is an investment of my time which is extremely dear to me because one-on-one coaching is where I become a part of the process. You're on stage. I'm going to be watching your speech agadi pachadi when, YouTube ma pachi aaye pachi 10,000 choti herchu ke garnu bhayo. It is like I'm involved in the process. I get immersed in the process. It becomes my speech, my presentation, me. How it starts is somebody gives me a call, a message on WhatsApp or Instagram or wherever it is. Generally somebody screens the messages. A message, hi, I want to learn from you, is treated in one way vis-a-vis a message which says, hi, I am so and so. I have this talk coming up in 36 days. My content is this. I would love to have a meeting with you to understand how I can format it better and make the most amount of impact.
Generally, it's for the presentation that they need to give.
So I understand Keko lagi ho. A one-on-one coaching, I don't do it with people who are like want to speak better, want to communicate better. I will do it with somebody who's going for a Miss Universe, who's going for a Miss Nepal, who has an end deadline in sight, who has a particular platform in sight. I have to give a TED talk. I'm speaking in front of government officials. I want to convince them and I want to pitch an idea for an oral oncology center in Dhulikhel, right? Now that is something I'm going to help with. That is something I'm going to work on. My film is releasing. I want to know how to talk about it better in front of the media. I have a TED talk. I want to talk about my pet project in front of everybody. I'm going to be participating in Miss Nepal, Miss India, Miss Australia, whatever. I want to speak better on stage. I have a cricket team. I want to know how to talk about it at this podcast, right? If you tell me what you are doing, why you're doing it, and when it's going to happen, what is the platform, that interests me. But hey, I want to communicate better. Same here.
How about pop talk?
How about pop talk?
You took my words away, man.
You guys are fabulous already. See, you guys are fabulous already. No, but like genuinely, people come with an idea. This is my content. This is when I have to speak. That's the platform, and that's when I would take it forward.
So this is our content. This is what this is what we need to speak in, and we want to get really good at this.
You guys are so good already. I swear.
Now I need to confess something. Honest to God, right? So last night I was about to call Mannsi around 10:30 p.m. 10:30 p.m. to ask her, Mannsi, I'm really nervous. How should I talk to you?
What's wrong with
talk to her.
You're my friend. You will just talk to me like
But
this.
the way you talk is like, I said, it's
No,
mellow.
this
You know, you just want to
the
listen
kids are
and you
not-
take people to another genre.
Nine, this to kids.
Very captivating.
Yeah,
Okay, no?
very captivating.
I don't know that they okay. And then then it starts with always like a training need assessment call. So then I'm going to become a detective and I'm going to get on a Zoom call or whatever it is with you and pick your brain for half an hour, 40 minutes and understand what you want to learn, why you want to learn, what is the value I can add to whatever it is that you're planning to do, what is your journey, when do you need to speak, and how do you want to go about it. So you remember when we met, I asked you tons and tons of questions.
Right,
I am
you
a
did.
good question asker when it comes to a situation like that.
He reminded me of a very good friend of mine.
Questions?
He likes to ask a lot of questions.
Oh,
I need to ask a lot
Somebody
of questions.
you know.
Somebody
look at the mirror, banana.
Yeah, look at the mirror. He's the same. He asks so many questions. Like, how can somebody think of that many questions?
No, it's important. I think, see, here's the thing. A good doctor is always the doctor that listens to you patiently and asks you the most number of questions.
Right.
A good salesperson is always the person who asks you so many questions and knows exactly what you want to buy, not thinking about what he wants to sell.
Right.
For me, when I get into a training need assessment call with somebody, trust you me, you'll be surprised by the number of times I say, I'm sorry, I'm not the right person to help you.
Why?
They want something else. Somebody wants to know how to communicate better in English. I'm not an English teacher. I'm not the right person.
Right.
Somebody wants to learn, for example, how to have the right personality. I'm not a personality development teacher. I'm a communication coach. There's a difference.
Right.
So after a training need assessment, I will generally be like, okay, I am not the right person. Maybe you need to do something like this. Or I am the right person, but this is not the right time. Don't come to me right now. Let's do this after 3 months. Or this is the right fit. I can add value to your life.
What is your finding so far with the companies that you've tried to work with or have worked with? What does your training need analysis say? How many companies right now that you have already worked with and has worked? And how many really needed the training that you were trying to provide? And like you said, no to some companies.
Okay.
What would be the reason why you would say no to the company?
Okay.
By the way?
When I say no, I'm talking about coaching. That's one-on-one with individuals.
Okay.
Okay. With companies, generally, I don't have the privilege to say no that much. With organizations, it's more of, ma'am, you didn't meals ho? Meals ho. You
And
topic.
then you have a set of presentation that you give on a particular
No,
topic.
but then there's a lot of training need analysis after that. So
How
with
does that work? The training need analysis.
Sure. So with an organization, there are 2 or 3 things I do. If it's an organization that I worked with in the past, if it's an organization I understand, there's no need for a very in-depth training need analysis. If it's a short 2-hour session, I'm not going to go very deep. I will get the topics from the HR person or the learning and development person. Somebody's going to tell me, ma'am, we need customer service, this, and I'm going to take it forward from
Just
there.
the basic stuff.
A basic thing. But if an organization says we need 3 days of coaching or 3 days of training for all our people, that's when my question register is going to open. And I'm going to ask you like a zillion questions. I want to know what's your organogram, who are the people working, why are they doing what they're doing, what are the things they're individually struggling with, where can I add value, what are some of the topics that you really need to focus on? What are some of the topics that you can just let pass? Some things you have to let go. Some things you really have to focus on and handle very, very delicately. So I work very strongly on understanding exactly what an organization needs if it's going to be a longer training. Also, if an organization tells me there are 5 people you're training, I work super hard in understanding who those 5 people are. Because if a company's pulled out a smaller group for me, they're looking at real impact, and I work very hard with my research. You won't believe, but I've done this. When companies say customer service, I go as a mystery shopper into their organization and I go back my khata khulnu parne cha malai aundaina just to understand the field, just to understand how things work. So my research can be either a phone call, can be a Zoom call where I ask you questions for 40-45 minutes, can be a questionnaire where I tell you to fill up, where I tell everybody from the organization, fill up what you feel about these particular communication issues, communication problems. Or it could also be me going in as a mystery shopper into your bank, into your office, into your organization to see the feel I get there, to see what I feel about it, to see how I'm treated, to see how they deal with me, to see how good they are with the various methods and processes that they have to carry out. And that becomes the fundamental on which I customize my training sessions. Here's the thing. I have my team that works with me, right? They go for every single session. And they say, ma'am, customer service ma asti to yo bhannu bhacha cha, aaj to yo bhannu bhacha cha. It depends on the organization. What a bank needs in terms of customer service is not what you need at all. So when somebody comes to buy, let's say, a suit, they have a completely different requirement and a completely different way of dealing with customer service in comparison to a
The
bank.
demand in terms of training चाहिँ अहिले एकदम धेरै बढिरहेछ है. Is what you feel?
लाग्छ हो.
हो अनि do you feel like the trainees भनौँ न हैन, are they really interested in taking that training when it's compulsory in the banks and stuff like that?
It depends on organization to organization. What I feel really helps is if rather than telling everybody go for it, either you handpick and you cherry pick the people, okay, you are allowed to come for this training. You have done very well. So we want you to come for this training. Then they're more receptive. What also really helps is if somebody, let's say from the HR or from the learning and development department says that, okay, we're going to have this training. What are the things you want to learn? What are some of the skills that we can impart to you? What would add value to you? And the topics come from them. That's when they're a lot more receptive. So over the years, I've figured out how to make this process work so that people are more on board with training sessions.
यस्तो भयो, just like you said, that the corporate training, of course, there is a cost to it, right? Right? You charge a hefty amount of money for that.
Hefty rate. Hefty rate.
Reasonable.
Okay.
Reasonable.
on.
Okay,
Yeah, we
reasonable
talk
amount
about
of money. But then, you know what? Like a lot of companies, especially the startup ones, right, or maybe the company who are struggling, they would struggle in a lot of ways and might not be able to afford somebody like you, right? What would one advice be from you going forward for them in terms of training? They need to start somewhere, right?
Right.
Because I have a follow-up question to that.
Because I've had a lot of struggles before, especially in sales, especially in for personally, मैले आफैले बोल्नलाई पनि मलाई धेरै गाह्रो हुन्थ्यो पहिला. I had to do a lot of things by myself. I had to put in the work by myself. हुन्छ नि, learn from different people. But it took a lot of time for me. There was मलाई त्यस्तो training हुन्छ भनेर पनि थाहा थिएन र neither did I opt for spending money to do that, के हैन, because I didn't have enough money at some point. त्यही सिचुएसनमा भएको कोही मान्छे अहिले पनि त होला नि त.
Of course.
That person might need that training that you give. That'll help him be a better communicator or improve on his personality at some point. Where would he start from? Yeah.
Okay, that's a great
Does he start from your videos?
Yeah. I was going to say exactly that. Subscribe garnu hola.
No. But then video matra हेरेर त हुँदैन नि त, हैन?
Video ma थाहा छ के हुन्छ.
How do they mentally चाहिँ कसरी त्यसलाई framework गर्ने is something that I wanted to get out of you के खास.
Okay. एकदम सस्ता सुन्दर टेकाउ एउटामा अप्सन भनौँ, हैन? To learn anything, there has to be to gain confidence in any skill. I always talk about the KPF loop. मैले खास त्यो नाम आफै निकालेको, sounds fancier than it is, हैन? KPF loop. K knowledge, P practice, F feedback. Simple. Okay?
Very nice.
Training ma के हुन्छ अथवा coaching ma के हुन्छ? म knowledge यानी technical skills दिइरहेको छु. Practice तपाईँ मेरो अगाडि उभिएर 10,000 चोटि गर्नुपर्छ हैन. I make people do that. You will not believe how many models and Miss Nepal and Miss Universe contenders come to me and I make them stand. I'm sitting like this, bhana. And I make them do this 6 hours, 7 hours. Of course. There are times when I'm sitting on the floor in front of them holding their feet because their feet are not, their weight is not balanced properly. So I'll sit on the floor like that and I'm like, okay, speak. I'm like this, okay, speak, I do things like that. So first is knowledge, which means technical skills. Second is practice, which means you have to keep on practicing. And the third is feedback, where I keep on giving you feedback, which helps you grow and understand and evaluate and change. Mero videos bata, अथवा कुनै videos bata, अनि कुनै book bata, knowledge चाहिँ पाइहाल्नुहुन्छ के. Knowledge ton नै available छ आजको दुनियाँमा, हैन? What may not be available is somebody to handhold you as you practice and feedback on how you're performing, हैन? म यो भन्न सक्छु starting को लागि knowledge को लागि KPF loop मा knowledge को लागि जानु YouTube मा मेरो धेरै भिडियो छ मेरो Insta मा पनि म हाल्छु हैन. Go watch that stuff. There's a lot of stuff coming up on sales, customer service, public speaking.
You've already
I पनि रात छ. I think the next 24 videos I've already shot. हैन. साच्चै कुरा
YouTube मा पनि छ, Facebook मा पनि छ.
सबैमा छ. सबैमा छ. YouTube 2 भिडियो पछाडी गइराछ. I just checked it yesterday, so we're not on schedule everywhere.
So you're more primarily dominant on Facebook more than
but
on
I'm
YouTube.
also I don't know. I put everything on YouTube. YouTube is like my archive. Facebook is where I interact with people. LinkedIn is where I love posting the most. And Insta is the most amount of fun. So everything has its place. हैन. तर knowledge लिने हो भने जहाँबाट पनि भिडियोजबाट लिन पाइयो. मात्र मेरो किन दुनियाँभरिको knowledge available छ. Practice चाहिँ आफै गर्नु पर्ला. Feedback को लागि, if you're a very small organization, ask your friends to help you, give you feedback, tell people to evaluate you, work with each other, work with your friends, coach each other, see how you feel, see the kind of responses you get when you communicate in a certain way. So KPF loop, सबै कुरामा मेरो involvement required छैन. आफै गएर पनि गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ. Having said that, let me also give you a little disclaimer here. I was invited on this Idea Studio Nepal. They have this pitching round and I was judging 2 episodes of it. And the second episode that I did, where I was judging, I loved 2 of the ideas that were pitched in front of us. Fabulous stuff. Very simple. It's a cooperative where women get together and make achar. I love the products as well. They gave us a little jar to try and I tried it, loved the product. And I said, I want to work with these guys. I want to mentor them. So I was told by the organization that it's not going to be like a paid monetary thing. I said, it doesn't matter. I want to mentor them on their branding. And I want to help them to brand themselves better because the packaging was very looking. You know what I mean? There's just so much more that can be done. Why do you want to make it plasticky, yellow cover, takka chhap lagago? There's so much more that you can do with it.
True.
There's so much more to brand that differently and make it a completely premium product so that you get a certain kind of money flowing in. So they said, okay, we'll set you up in such a way that mentor them 3 months and then you get a certain part of the business. Okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like a very tiny bit of the equity, but I think that makes sense because that also helps me to feel more invested in the product. It's not just about the money. It is about impact. It is about doing something and getting equity. So I'm working like that with a couple of companies right now. And I think that's a great thing because I am the biggest cheerleader rooting for them to win and working with them very closely. The work is yet to start in a very right way, but yes, we're getting there.
Nice. Talking about feedback, what do you think? How are we doing?
Oh my God, you guys are fun and entertaining. No, seriously, I was looking forward to this and it's been a great conversation so far and I don't want it to end anytime soon.
That's good. That's good because I have so many questions to ask you and too many curiosities.
Let's go.
So we've talked about your profession, your communication skills and training people and all those stuff, right? So has there ever been a day that you've been low?
Sorry.
I know. Okay. I know. Okay. Now that you left, she left.
She's the ultimate motivator. She's always motivated.
No.
But for everybody, now when you talk about motivation, there's a guy called Andrew Tate. Have you heard about him?
And
We have not heard about Andrew Tate. Come on.
And I'm not even a motivational speaker at all. I'm a communication trainer.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I want our audience to be clear. She's not a motivation speaker. Of course, she's a TEDx speaker, but not motivational speaker.
Not at all, no, because oh my God, no.
It's a difference, right?
There's a huge difference.
of
There's a
course.
difference, but I think a lot of people take you as a motivator.
That's a
Your lifestyle could be a motivation for a lot of people.
That's chote kurani, but I don't. No. I'll tell you why. This happened because of Facebook. This is the disfavor that Mr. Mark Zuckerberg did to me. के भयो त? On Facebook, I put speaker. होइन? Facebook मा speaker को option नै छैन के? त्यो automatically motivational speaker बनाइदिन्छ. But there are many other kinds of speakers. There are people who talk about different topics. Not everyone needs to be a motivational speaker to be a paid professional speaker on stage. And people need to understand that. So I'm not a motivational speaker. Having said that, do I have a bad day? Do I ever feel low? Yesterday, 3 of my friends treated me to smoothie bowl, chocolate and chips because I was having such a bad day. 3 pieces of bad news, one after the other. And I was just like, this by the end of the day. And I have that all the time.
How do you pull yourself out of that situation? Because I've seen your posts. They're pretty motivating. I think you talk a bit about body shaming as well and depression as well. You know, how do you sort of, keep your mind into focusing on things that are positive amidst of all the negative things, or if you're struggling with your, should I say it or not, like the demons inside you? How do you cope? How do you cope with that?
Okay, it starts with chocolate. Sadly,
now we know.
Now we know. It starts with chocolate, but it always proceeds to conversations. It always goes on to a level where we are talking and I talk to my friends. For me, words are my love language. That's how I communicate best. So it's always going to start with, okay, I need to talk to you. It's going to be a friend. It could be over Dhedo. It could be over chocolate. It could be over a smoothie bowl. But it's going to be a long conversation. It's going to be me sharing everything without a filter. Talking as if I'm talking to a wall, literally purging everything out there, making sure that my friend, whoever it is that I'm confiding in, gets to understand everything. Just that makes me feel very light. I also write a lot. When I'm feeling the lowest is when I'm going to write the most. I also realize this. I've been through rock bottom so many times. I've always pulled myself out of it. It's been work. It's been my profession. It's been my career. It's been anything that gives me joy. And in the midst of all the negativities, there's a 4-question formula that I follow, right? We were talking about how I was robbed in Spain.
Yes.
Right?
Off the record it was. Now let's put it on record.
That was another level of rock bottom.
that was, oh my God. I land in Barcelona, my best friend and me. Sunny, beautiful morning. Birds chirping, nice blue skies. And before we reach the hotel, right outside the airport, my passport, my phone, and a bit of money goes. Right?
There were people who came to you and took all of it from you.
There was a group of 5.
Okay.
We were followed.
Very, very filmy, huh?
Very filmy. We were followed. And after this following thing, somebody distracted my friend. I stood somewhere, somebody took something out of my bag. It's a long story.
I've heard the story,
You've
but
heard this, right?
please go ahead. Yeah.
Whatever. I was robbed. And I call up my mom, right? First thing. I'm like, Mama, passport chori ho gaya. Right? And this is evening in Calcutta. She's there. She's like, koi baat nahi.
Is it called chori or daket?
Daket. I said, Mama, passport chori ho gaya, right? And she's like, koi baat nahi, beta, think positive. Isto reis uthyo nahi. Think positive. I am sitting बार्सिलोना को बाटोमा ल्यान्ड गर्न बित्तिकै फोन गयो, पासपोर्ट गयो, इलिगल इमिग्रेन्ट भइसक्यो होइन, अनि पैसा पनि अलिअलि हरायो, एन्ड थिङ्क पोजिटिभ. बट देन आई रियलाइज्ड एट द्याट पोइन्ट, अपार्ट फ्रम दिस आई हेभ नथिङ. Apart from the power of my mind, which I truly believe in, I had nothing going for me at that point. And I'm like, now, this is the only thing that can help me. So I asked myself 4 questions. Question number 1, this point I feel like It's like a train that's got no brake and it's going downhill on the wrong path.
Yeah.
Right? You think so negative. But police sounds, malai samajcha, yo huncha, tyo. You know, your brain is processing things very wrongly. There's no logic involved.
भएको पनि छैन.
भएको छैन तर you're thinking negative नि.
exactly.
अनि पुरै cheeks एकदम तातो flushed जस्तो भएर the people who've stolen from you are standing in front of you threatening that okay hit me and all sorts of stuff. It was very dramatic.
Wow.
Very dramatic हैन के भएको थियो यो police station त्यो police station के भयो हामीसँग. I asked myself, I need to calm myself down right now so that I start thinking in a different way. How can I calm myself immediately? That was the first question I asked my brain. My brain said, eat something, have carbs, have chocolate. Your body is craving that, right? It releases a certain kind of enzyme or whatever, or hormone or whatever it is, helps you. I ate chocolate. Immediately in that moment, alikata, you feel calm. Question number 2. This has happened with you, Mannsi, but what are you still grateful for? Even right now, what are you grateful for?
Even at that situation.
Even sitting in this bato outside this police station in Barcelona, what are you grateful for? 3
I'm
answers.
still alive.
I'm alive. Right? त्यो jailed abroad just the situation bad छैन. I'm alive. All my money hasn't gone. And I'm in Barcelona. You know what I mean? I've been waiting to be here and I'm here. So 3 question, यो question को answer तो आयो नि. Positive कति कुरा छ life मा. ल, next. If, now the third question is the vital one. यो situation मा तिम्रो सट्टा तिम्रो बहिनी भयो भने तिमीलाई कुन advice दिन्थ्यो त? In this situation, what happens is, if I ask myself, what should I do right now? I'm going to be like, everything's over. There's nothing to do. Sit on the road, cry. But if you had received a call from your sister, my younger sister, Didi, I'm stranded in Barcelona without a passport. What advice would you give her? Our brain, because we get caught up in our own emotions, our brain oftentimes gives us the worst advice. We reserve the worst advice for ourselves. We reserve the best advice for the people who are vulnerable and dependent on us. For my sister, I'll always have the best, most logical advice. So I asked myself, if your sister was in this situation right now, what would you tell her to do? I would tell her, go to the embassy, get your papers done, get an FIR lodged, figure out your temporary passport scene, catch the next flight, come back home, be safe. Correct? My brain would never tell me that. My brain was telling me, hi, karera basa batoma, right? I did exactly that. I did whatever paperwork needed to be done, got my papers filed, spoke to the embassy in Portugal, spoke to the embassy in Madrid, did whatever, went to the consular, got a passport, did everything over the next 3 days, right? And then, what did I learn from this situation?
4th.
That was the 4th question, right? Or 2 years later, when you look back, how would you like to remember this situation? And it's been 3.5 years now. And I remember that situation as rock bottom, but also a situation which helped me file in my head that I'm actually a lot stronger than I make myself out to be. And my brain has infinite capacity if I allow it and if I ask it the right questions. So I think that any negative situation, when you look at it like this and when you process it like this, your perception to it changes and the way you deal with it and the strength you allow yourself to deal with it changes completely, and that changes the outcome.
Basically channeling the energy that you're getting into something else, right?
4 questions. That's it.
Train your mind and allow your body to follow.
Yes. So basically, whenever you're in trouble, rather than thinking all the troubles for yourself, you have to think like you're advising somebody.
Absolutely.
Right.
We're all good agony aunts.
Right.
What?
So,
agony? What?
Agony aunts?
What does that mean?
Somebody you go to for advice? Like, dear agony aunt, मेरो life ma yo bhayo, ke garum ta? You give great advice when people ask you for advice, but when it comes to yourself, you generally don't give yourself the best advice. Okay? But when you start thinking outside your body, when you start thinking, यो situation ma baini bhaye bhane ma kun advice dinte hola, you automatically come up with better ideas.
Damn, that was good.
Right?
That was good.
That's
like
a different perspective.
Next time if I'm in a negative situation, I'm going to think just like that.
See?
Yeah.
But you can start
nice.
with chocolate.
of course, first.
Does that work only with ladies?
For me, it's chocolate. It's the end of everything. Yes.
I think for men, it's more like whiskey. Yes.
I'm sorry. for me, chocolate always.
Right. Now, I had done a little bit of research, and I found out you also did stand-up.
We're not going to talk about this. No.
Found out.
Your research is khatarnak research. I want
do you remember? Do you remember this? Now we are going to see
that's exactly where we're coming.
Are we looking at a stand-up video at some point?
Yeah.
Mic drop. Oh my God. Embarrassing. It's the kind of stuff you do. Oh, why are we talking about this?
Because I found out. And I
Is there
never,
a video?
I never knew.
Is there a video on YouTube about it?
No.
No,
That's China.
there's somewhere. There's somewhere something. I think it's better to hear from Mannsi herself. Isn't it?
Okay.
No, I was very smart at cleaning up my tracks, I thought. I don't think there should be videos.
Did you remove all the videos of you doing stand-up?
I'm sure there's still an
No one
archive.
You don't want anybody
some
to
archive.
remember.
I know one person who has videos. I asked him for a video recently because I lost my copies as well. He said, "Pathai dinsu." And I'm like, "Theek sa, na pathaunda pani huncha." So I'm not. I was very bad.
So you
at
were
it.
basically trying out.
I was trying out.
things.
Yeah, I was trying out stuff,
Yeah.
and I realized just how unfunny I am. And I was like, yeah, not my scene. And I think stand-up works on spontaneity, and stand-up works on, just being willing to open yourself up in such a way that you can say anything and get away with it. But for what I do, my day job as a corporate trainer, as a coach, doesn't allow me that kind of freedom, right? So I wanted to sort of preserve that, and I'm just not that person. I'm not funny.
But then, do you think people are really shaped up to become a comedian or shaped up to become a politician? Yeah, you know what I mean. You can't train somebody to be a politician, can you? Or can you train somebody to become a comedian for that matter?
So are we talking about nature versus nurture here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Good question. Last week, I met Dr. Sameer Mani Dixit, genetics, right, scientist. And I asked him, what do you think? Like we have our own perception on whether somebody is born a certain way or somebody becomes a certain way because of the environment. Is it genes or is it the environment? Is it nature or is it nurture?
Is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, that's exactly what he told me. He said, if you have a genetic predisposition, a genetic likelihood of doing something, the chances you will do it are higher. But unless you find the conducive environment, you won't do it. So if you're born to a family of smokers or drug addicts, genetically, you're predisposed to doing that. But if you go and you live in a family where you've never been exposed to cigarettes, you may not do it at all. So genes, according to him, play 80% of a role, and your environment and your situations play 20% of a role. I'm not sure whether I agree with that ratio or not, but I would definitely say it's a mix of both. So when I think about myself, I'm unfunny. What do I do? There's no way to something.
Can you learn your way on to become a politician or a comedian?
Oh, that's a great question. Can it be nurtured? So let me give you an example of Shelly Basnet. You know her, comedian.
Yes.
Seven Summits. And then
Yes.
comedian, right?
Yes.
She's naturally funny. She's Seema Golcha. Naturally
funny.
Unbelievably funny, right? With her Instagram stories, there's always this I'm like, Seema, how? Like, how do you
can
think
you come up
of
with
stuff like this? Like, how does this work? How does your brain process stuff like that? Right? So she's naturally funny. So she has that inbuilt, innate sort of talent, that raw talent. She has it. Yet, I'm sure they've put in work on how to write better,
writing them, yeah.
How to frame your punches better, how to time your punches better, how to verbalize a certain thought that you have. So there has to be some level of talent.
That 10,000 hours into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I believe in 10,000 hours 100%. That is something that I'm truly, truly a firm believer of. You have to put in your 10,000 hours.
How much of a book reader are you?
I used to be a very avid reader as a kid. Got back to reading solidly into 2020, 21.
I think like books like really shapes up somebody's mindset and makes you sort of know yourself better at some point. You know what I mean? Like you might have that raw talent within you, but then when you are learning, when you are researching, and when you are going into books, you sort of figure it out in yourself whether you are interested in that or not. Okay?
It's like, reading books gives you a realization.
I'm not a book reader. I'm a book listener. Really.
ठीक sir. It's a great way to spend time with somebody who's smarter than you. Just to lag sake. Somebody who's written a book, let's say, has done research on something. Let's say, just name a book, any book, any book, right?
Dale Carnegie, maybe.
Okay, Dale Carnegie. Okay, or maybe let's say Indu Sundaresan, who's my favorite author.
Okay.
She writes about the Mughal era, right?
Okay.
So it's fiction, but it's based on historical people, right? So I love her books. So when you're actually reading her books, look at the kind of research she's put into understanding that. And you understand how her brain functions as well, how the brains of the people she talks about functions as well. So you get so many ideas. And a great book, I think, is one that makes you question, that makes you do things, that makes you think about yourself and introspect a lot.
What do you think about like self-help books? It's a different,
yeah, of course,
different
it's a
type of
different
book,
genre.
book.
It's a different genre.
But then what about like a self-help book? What would you suggest, or what is your favorite one?
What is my favorite one? The 5 a.m. Club. Very stereotypical, very cliched.
Yeah.
Okay.
Read it? Did you do anything about it?
I tried it, but
I will promise you one thing. It's a game changer.
Ora?
It's a game changer. The 5 a.m. Club.
I haven't read it.
Do you still wake up at 5 a.m.?
Who's the author again?
Robin Sharma.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of self-help. My favorite would be that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cliched, very, very typical. But I love that book. I think it's amazing. And I did it for a very long time and it helped. Sorry.
It motivates you at some level. You want to do it, but just doesn't get into me.
When I did it for 100 days straight, so many things changed.
Oh.
And I'm desperate to do it again.
I will definitely try.
So I am out of topic here. I don't know what you guys are talking about because I don't know about the book. But anyway, I'll make sure I go home and read it at least here.
Of course, you were reading that book, no, Astina?
The Power of Habits.
Power of Habit.
The positive mindset.
Deep work.
I love deep work.
I
love deep work. I like that
deep
book.
work gives you a different sense, of work. It just
deep
so
work.
simple.
He went only like 5 pages deep.
Not deep into the book. Not deep enough into the book, clearly.
So yeah, talking about deep work, kind of. I have a habit which is forgetting, a very bad habit. I know, and a lot of people suggest me you should write in a diary, whatever your journals, write a diary or your daily schedule kids or diary ma lekho. I know. Now what happened is, one of my friend bought me a diary as well. Timi isma garo, you make sure you write whatever is happening so that you don't forget. They got me a diary.
Then you forgot the diary.
Then I forgot I had a diary.
That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah, then I forgot I had a diary. I know. So similarly, deep work meant this type. So I went about 20 pages, and then I forgot I had the book.
He couldn't get deeper into deep work because he forgot he had that book. Great.
Okay.
Good.
That's so my another curiosity is, from whatever you're doing at the moment, right? The world knows you as a communication coach or a TEDx speaker, anything. Deep down for yourself, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a sister, and you're also a communication coach, and you have a profession. How would you like to be addressed?
In hindsight, sadly, I get a lot of my self-identity through my work. Okay, I was having this conversation with a friend who's also a life coach, and so I said, okay, she's like, what makes you really happy? When I'm on stage, when I'm speaking, what makes you feel alive? When I have a mic in my hand, people are listening. Who are you? I'm a trainer. What do you love to do? Train. Not once did I say, oh, I love it when I'm with my son. I mean, I do love it, but that honestly is I don't know if I sound harsh as I say this, but for me, work gives me more joy than anything else. Work that I love gives me more joy than anything else. And she realized that a lot of people, everyone has like an internal sort of a compass, right? Something that guides you, something that makes you who you are. My internal compass is very career-based. My internal compass, my self-worth, my self-identity, whether it's a good thing or a bad, I draw a lot of it through my work. So when I describe myself or who am I am a very genuine person who loves communicating with people, would be my answer. Not a mom. That's secondary maybe.
I asked that question
Wow.
because
It's not a
You know,
good answer.
no,
it's
it's-
not an impressive enough answer, Justolad sir.
But,
Oh,
but then
well,
you're
I
very
think-
passionate about what you do, right?
I love
so,
what I do.
So I think that makes sense.
whenever
what I
she
mean?
says it's not a good answer, I go back to that video.
They're like, she's trying to reverse psychology me into this. No.
So I only asked that question because a lot of people, they're working hard. They're doing everything that they can for their career, for their job. But sometimes people tend to lose their identity. Like they question themselves. Like, am I really happy? What am I doing?
What the hell am I doing, Vanessa?
Right. I have fame, but am I happy? I have name, I have money, I have
What is your
everything, but am I
happiness
happy?
mantra?
So
You seem to be very happy.
I'm really
Yeah,
happy.
yeah,
Most
exactly.
days.
Uh-huh.
Not yesterday, but most.
I think that is what matters, okay?
Right.
I know most
What
days
makes
you need
you
to have
happy
it.
is,
Saat
yeah,
din mein,
yeah.
saat din mein, if you're happy for like let's say 50% or more, then that is
I'm happy 85% just the
that's amazing. You know?
Oh,
That's amazing.
I'm
Right.
85%.
What is your happiness mantra then?
I
Sum Sumaya Nama.
okay.
No, we had astrologer Raj come in the
The
other day,
episode
and
before.
that was his way of saying like how you can focus on to things. A mantra that he gave us was Om Sum Somaya Nama.
Oh no, sorry, I'm not
Not into astrology, are you?
at all.
He's given 12 mantras, I think, for
No,
one horoscope
7
each.
mantras for 7 days. I know.
12 mantras
No, for
12
the
zodiacs.
suppose
all the horoscopes.
12 mantras and right? There are a few
Yeah,
many
there are
mantras
few
that he has
mantras.
given in the podcast. It's releasing soon. I know.
I'll watch that episode and I'll try and follow that as well. But for me, happiness really is about being extremely mindful of focusing on things that I enjoy. You know, the opposite of happiness is not sadness.
Huh?
The opposite of happiness is not sadness. That's a bit of lies. The opposite of happiness is not having enough engaging things to keep you going. You know, when on a day, when you feel sad, when you know, okay,
Damn.
when you're happy,
Completely
but
different
don't you
perspective. Yeah, exactly.
Don't you
True,
understand
true,
what I'm saying?
true,
Like,
true.
let's say right now, I'm happy. See my face. I'm genuinely happy. I'm having this conversation with you guys. Yesterday, I wasn't happy. Bad news, bad news, bad news. As a result of which, I was languishing in bed all day. I was literally lying down like this. Oh my God, everything's about to get over. It's not because I was sad. It's because there was nothing like this to keep me going. You know, the opposite of happiness is not sadness. The opposite of happiness is not having something that excites you every day. When there's something that exciting you on a day-to-day basis, when I focus only on those things that excite me, I'm happier. So for me, today, happiness could be a chocolate cake because that's exciting me. Today, happiness could be talking to you fabulous people. Happiness could also be being on stage speaking to people. So happiness is doing things that excite you, that there's a bit of challenge involved, there's a bit of rush involved. There's something you're working towards that's involved. For me, that is happiness. And I focus, I try my best to weed out from my life anything that does not fulfill this criteria, and I don't work on that.
Then again, you said communication is your way to distress or happiness. Let's say happiness as well. So talking about communication, has it ever happened that when you talk to a friend or your audience, even when you go for a training, have you been mistaken? Or what do you say? I don't know. I'm choosing the misunderstood or mistaken by the words that you say or the sentences or the phrase that you...
Thankfully, audience ma to bhat chaina. Career ye saki haltyo हजुर हैन हैन
No,
She trains communication, and if she cannot communicate well,
No, what I'm saying is she trains, but the people who are coming to attend her training, they might not have an understanding level.
So then it's my fault. I have to speak at their level.
No, but you wouldn't know. There is 200 people that you train,
Okay.
right? There is one person who wouldn't understand what you're trying to,
Sure.
relay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Two different thoughts. Firstly, when I'm going in for a coaching session, a training session, or a speech, it is my job to figure out who I'm speaking to, what their mindset is, what is the age group, what is the demographic, how many people will there be, what is their background, what is their education level. That's my job. As a speaker, I have to know that no matter what I want to say, whether it's hostile or whether it's for the audience, it doesn't matter. I have to say it in a way that they understand best. So my job would firstly be to do research on the audience. Yes, there will be that one guy who's going to be like, ma'am, but I don't agree. And that's fine. That's fine. It's happened 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
It's happened once in an organization where his manager ultimately said, listen, you are just wasting time. What you're talking is complete nonsense. You're not understanding what she's saying. Please, let's talk about this during the break. Don't waste everybody's time.
You had to say that.
Yeah, the manager has done that once. एकचोटि त मसँग भएको छ हैन.
Yeah,
But these things
every
happen.
crowd मान्छे एकजना मान्छे हुन्छ नि.
Everyमा हुँदैन, thank God.
ए, हो र?
हो छ्या, गाह्रो हुन्छ नि. Everyमा हुँदैन, कुनैमा हुन्छ. मसँग
Somebody who
3 चोटि त yawnsहरू त हुन्छ, but then you have to know how to grab their attention. You have to know how to speak to
That's
them.
a technique on its own,
Of course,
right?
of course.
Yeah.
Engaging an audience that's not interested in the topic is something that you have to be extremely conscious about. But that you do through storytelling, that you do through a lot of other tools to engage audience members. How you stand, where you
These are
stand,
all
how
very
you look.
technical.
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 एकदम technical आउँछ तर हुन्छ हैन. Having said that, if I am not prepared, there's no way I'll be able to do that. I need to study my audience much before I go up on stage, right? त्यो एउटा कुरा हुन्छ. Have I been misunderstood? Yes. I think very fast. I process information super duper fast. So sometimes I say things that go but I actually meant it in a particular way, right? But that I do not do on stage. That I do not do when I train. But with my friends, I just expect them to understand. So yesterday I was having a conversation with this friend and I said, listen, I may not always be the nicest person in the room, but I'll always try to do good. Nice is being pleasant. Hello, how are you? Such a beautiful day. Good is, Raaz, you need to do this. Get this done. Are you understanding the difference?
Yes.
So because I am from the corporate background, because I'm such a taskmaster, everything is about getting stuff done, meeting goals, reaching deadlines. I don't always have to be very pleasant and very nice. I can be very straightforward sometimes in smaller groups, maybe with my friends, maybe with people that I'm very close to, because I want to be good to you and get this done. So I don't always believe in being nice. Good is more important.
So captivating.
Getting more insights on things. So I just wanted to ask about the training people that you train, and then mostly with your friends that you've been mistaken, because most of the times what hurts is when your friends mistake you, right? It hurts the most because you wouldn't have been, you
have been in a lot
anything
of those situations, haven't you?
lately.
That is his problem. He says something, but like his friends, that being me, sadly,
His friends.
we misunderstand his way of saying it.
That
right?
happens a lot of
And
times.
that
so,
happens
yeah.
a lot of time.
That's
why
on him.
Yeah,
That's
why
why
I was.
That's on you, bro.
That's always on the speaker. Unfortunately, I have to show you the mirror.
Yeah.
And I want to be I'm okay with being the evil person in this conversation.
No, you've been good.
I'm being good. That's on you.
Right.
If people misunderstand you, it's generally on you. It's your fault. We have to, because sometimes some people, myself included, I process things faster, just to pani lagcha, than some friends or some people maybe, hai na? And I say things like, if I have to just like, okay, listen, this needs to be done, let's get this done, let's move on. Especially under pressure. I work under a lot of crazy deadlines. Sometimes things don't come out right. Having said that, I am smart enough, and I'm not going to use the word humble. I'm going to say I'm smart enough. The moment I realized I made a mistake, I'm going to be the first person that say, I'm so sorry, that didn't come out right. I'm extremely okay with that. And this doesn't happen with everyone. With me, it happens with exactly 2 people, but it happens all the time with those 2 people. And I'm always like, okay, sorry, I messed up. Let's talk.
Oh,
This is
Closest
what I
ones. It comes out with the closest ones.
एकदम क्लोज साथीहरू 2 जनासँग मात्र हुन्छ. Lately मसँग पनि 2-3 पटक भइसक्यो त्यो भएर, but I've always been, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. That's how it came out. But you have to have that level of understanding, I guess, and I'm sure you do. But if somebody misunderstands us, mostly it's on us.
Right.
You should work on that, bro.
I'm working on that, bro.
I'll work on that too, bro. I also have to admit, I have also come across a little offbeat lately in different things.
I think I'll call Mannsi up for one-on-one.
त्यो त त्यसको answer is simple हो हैन. Just, I mean, you just have to have that sense of realization and just be like, I apologize for this situation. Let's work this out.
Right. I think we've come to the end of the show, right?
an end, yeah.
So, on a final note, okay, I want what I wanted to ask was a quote that you live by, okay? And I'm a very big believer of life quotes, right? A quote that you always live by and that has always anchored you to in any situation that you have come across, okay?
That's a great question, because I don't have a tattoo. Okay, I'm very scared of like needles and getting pricked. I don't have a tattoo. But if I were ever to get a tattoo, this is what I'm going to get tattooed on me. And it's a 3-word quote. I don't know who said it. I don't even know how I got it. Did I think of it? Did I read it? I don't know. It's just been with me forever.
Don't tell me it's KPF.
KPF is cool, but it's not KPF.
There are 3 letters, not words, bro.
But
there
then
are words
knowledge,
to it.
practice and feedback.
There are words to it.
Tara,
Anyway.
it relates in some way, Ola, hai, na? And my 3-word quote is, alchemy is real.
That's exactly what says in your website.
You saw that, right?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
You've actually done this research. Seriously, I'm impressed. Genuinely impressed.
You inspire me daily, so of course.
I don't know what to say to that. Thank you. But no, alchemy is real, you know. Now, let me just give you a bit of background because not everyone gets it without that. Unfortunately, this is one of those quotes that needs to be explained a bit.
Yeah.
So chemistry is science. We know it as science. You know, you mix this, boom, this will happen or that will happen. But before chemistry, there was a science that is now regarded as a pseudoscience called alchemy. And alchemists, made famous by Paulo Coelho, alchemists were people who were just looking for formulae and for methods and for ways to convert anything into gold. Okay? So alchemists wanted to do that. Of course, with time, people started thinking, alchemy is nonsense. You can't convert pani into gold, cat into gold. You can't convert glass into gold. It doesn't work like that. So alchemy was disregarded as a pseudoscience and chemistry became the science that we all studied in school. But here's my thought. I believe, and I truly believe, alchemy is real. Every one of us, we don't really know it, but we have the potential to turn ourselves into gold, no matter who we are, no matter what we do. My life, and I kid you not, I don't know how well you've stalked me, but if you go back to 2007-8 and you see some of my pictures on Facebook, you won't recognize me because I don't recognize me. On a fundamental cellular biological level, I don't feel, think, look or behave like that person at all anymore. Which means that over the last few years, I have been able to transform my life, change my life. I'm not gold yet, but I want to get there someday. My version of gold. I believe alchemy is real because everyone can transform, can change, every situation can change, and we can all be the gold we want in our lives.
I'm speechless, bro.
Amazing.
Paise nikalo.
Damn,
So, yeah, before the show ends, I have a question. This is what I ask to every guest. So is there something that you would tell the audience or entrepreneurs or youths that you have to learn by failing here? You cannot just learn this. You have to fail to learn this so that you have a better perspective of this.
2 things you have to learn. You learn only by failure.
Those are-
Humility and just how insignificant you are, and work ethic. Doesn't come otherwise.
humility and work ethics.
How insignificant you are. Aja mala lagcha, oh, I'm so cool, you know, la la la. Nothing. What cool? It takes very little time for people, especially in today's world, to become irrelevant. Very little time. You could be the best actor, the best cricketer, the best footballer. Don't perform 7 times, people start forgetting about you. That sense of humility comes only if you know exactly how insignificant you are. And that comes with failure. With somebody who's been succeeding one after the other, that level of humility is never there. I know that until I show up, suit up, stand up every single day, I'm irrelevant completely, 100%, which is what comes with failure. So much of failure, so much of struggle. So humility for sure, and a strong work ethic. I know that if I'm not going to be responsive, if I'm not going to show up, if I'm not going to do the things I promised to do, things are not going to work at all. Comes with failure.
Great. That's very deep. So for
Very
me,
deep, very deep.
for me, actually, you know what I'm taking away from Mannsi, besides all those communication skills? Wake up, suit up, and show up.
Every single day.
Every
because,
single day.
right?
because alchemy is real.
Because alchemy is
that
real.
just sums up everything.
Right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mannsi, for doing this with us.
Thank you so much. I truly enjoyed this conversation.
Damn.
You know, I could listen to you all day. You know, the more you listen,
We should do this again.
Yeah.
We should do this
often.
again.
I'm in.
More often.
Right.
More often.
I'm in.
I'm always in. I invited you.
I'm in.
So, you know, the more you listen to her, like, कृपया
See?
इसको लागि एक डायल गर्नु होला
Hey,
अनि दुई डायल गर्नु होला
on that note, I love doing